Aloha. Welcome to Abe Seminars sessions. Today we're going to talk about encumbrances. And you go, why use such fancy words and words that we don't understand? Encumbrances have two different types of meanings. One is called a physical encumbrance, like an encroachment agreement or an easement that you get from your neighbor because, say, your land is landlocked. So that's a physical encumbrance. The other kind of encumbrance is called a lien. And the lien is when there's a legal right by a creditor to get the money back in case there's a default. So today we're going to talk about liens, financial encumbrances. A lien is a right given by law to a creditor, called a lienor, to have a debt or charge satisfied out of the sales proceeds of the property belonging to the debtor or the lienee. So, in simple words, I borrowed money from a bank. There's a mortgage lien. I don't pay the mortgage payments. The bank, the creditor, can sue me, force me to sell, and they can get their money back. That's what they mean. Liens of properties can be either voluntary, like a mortgage, or it can be involuntary because, let's say, you're going through bankruptcy. Or let's say you owe IRS taxes. The IRS can force the sale of your property. Or if you're going to go bankrupt, or you're going to have some other debt, then the creditors can force the sale. And obviously that's involuntary. We don't say, hey, I want to be, take it out of my debt by filing for bankruptcy. Nobody wants to do that. A lis pendens. A lot of people don't understand what a lis pendens is. But it's a legal notice placed by someone that's suing the owner of the property and placing a lien or a lis pendens or notice that a pending legal action is happening. So let me give you an example. I had a client who the mother passed away, and the trustee was my client. Trustee calls me up and says, hey, we have 5 homes on this property, and my brother, who is part of the heirs, wants to force the sale of the property. And I'm the trustee. I don't want to sell it. The brother hired an attorney and is forcing the sale of the property and filed a legal notice in the court system to say that there's pending legal action, and that pending legal action is called a lis pendens. So when I was asked by the trustee to sell the property, we did a title search, and the lis pendens was already recorded at the bureau. So the attorney for the brother actually filed legal notice. So when we sold the property, the brother's attorney basically said, hey, when you go through the closing process, we'll take off that lien so that we can close on the transaction. A week before we were supposed to close, that lien was still not taken away. And a few days before recording, it finally got taken away. So that lis pendens gives a legal notice to the public that there's pending legal action. It doesn't mean that there was a decision made. It doesn't mean that there was a winner or loser yet. It just says there's pending legal action that needs to be taken care of. So that's called lis pendens. There are other documents that can be recorded on the property, and we talked about mortgages before. There's also what we call real property assessments and taxes. If a property owner does not make real property tax payments for 3 years, then the state, the county where the property is located, has a legal right to foreclose on that property and sell it to somebody else for the unpaid taxes that are accruing on that property. So if I'm behind on my property taxes for 3 years, the tax office will do an auction and they'll sell the property for the amount that's owed for the property taxes. So let's say the amount that I owe is $20,000. Somebody bids 20 grand plus back taxes, then they get the property and I have to move out. There's one saving grace of this, that if I can raise the $20,000 plus the back interest, and I go to the tax office and say, hey, I raised the money, so I want my property back. And if I do it within a year or less, that I get my property back as long as I pay back the back taxes plus the interest to the investor that bought that property from me. So that's called a right of redemption. And in real property taxes, you have 1 year in Hawaii to get your property back. So you better get your money raised somehow with your friends and family or whoever so that you can get your property back. There's also what they call mechanics lien and material maintenance lien. And not too many people hear about this because what happens is if I hire a contractor and had a job done, but I didn't pay them, then the contractor can sue me for mechanics lien, which is the labor. And if they bought material, appliances, roofing material, furniture, etc., then the provider of the materials can also sue me. And that's why it's called mechanics and material maintenance liens. And this usually happens in construction jobs where the owner does not pay the contractor or the supplier of the materials. So hope you learned a little bit about encumbrances and liens. Aloha.